Hello. Before you is a true story, the everyday life of a black enslaved maid in a white family's house in the American South. This is not a dramatized novel or an inspiring tale of triumph, but a grim, exhaustively detailed journey into a world where human life was reduced to endless labor for someone else's comfort. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm really curious to see who's joined us. Now get comfortable. Let's begin. There is no rooster crowing for you. The rooster crows for the master, for the white children with cheeks like apples and hair that tangles just right. You do not get a sunrise. Instead, darkness itself nudges you awake, prodding you with cold fingers, reminding you that this day, like the last, does not belong to you. You open your eyes to the familiar scratch of straw and the sound of snoring, other bodies shifting on makeshift pallets. H1, another cog in the grinding machinery of the big house. Your eyelids are heavy. The dreams you had, if you had any, were not sweet. No one asks about your dreams, so you never mention them. Maybe you dreamt of your mother, her voice soft and tired, telling you stories she barely remembers herself. Maybe you dreamt of a river, of running, of not being here. Or maybe you did not dream at all, because sleep for you is not a soft luxury, but a cold, brief negotiation with exhaustion. You rise because you have to. That is all. No one is going to let you lie back down, not if they see you. If you are lucky, no one will notice you for a few minutes more, but you know you are not lucky. You have learned not to be lucky. Your morning begins with the taste of air, dry, dusty, a little sweet from the distant fields, and a lot sour from the bodies packed into the tiny, windowless room that someone else has decided is big enough for you and half a dozen others. You blink, rub your eyes with the back of your hand, and swing your legs off the straw mat. Your bare feet hit the dirt floor, which is as cold as a scolding and as hard as the day's coming work. You listen for the sounds of the house above. You know every creak and groan of those floorboards better than you know your own breath. A thud means the cook is already at work. A sharp, deliberate step means one of the overseers is coming. A distant shout is just another morning reminder that your life is about responding, never about deciding. If you are thinking, for even a moment, that you might stretch, yawn, or even sigh with longing, think again. Your joints ache. There is no point in noticing, let alone complaining. Pain is part of the uniform. Your body is not your own. It is a tool, a mop, a broom, an extension of someone else's will. You grab what little you own, a threadbare dress, perhaps patched so many times it could double as a map of disappointment, and a rag to tie your hair back. There is no mirror. If you want to know how you look, you can ask the cold bucket of water or maybe the laughter of the white children. You have grown used to not caring. Outside your window, well, not your window, but the gap in the planks where light sometimes sneaks through, the sky is still blue-black, indifferent and endless. You wonder if the moon ever wanted to be free from the sun, or if it has simply given up. You are not allowed to ask why. You are not even allowed to ask how much longer. The answers are always the same because someone else said so, and for as long as they want. You gather your courage, which is never enough, and step out of your corner, moving quietly to avoid waking the child next to you, a child who is not yours, but whose mother is somewhere else, in some other room, rising too. Your day is about to begin. There will be no gentle transitions. You will not get a morning routine, just a morning command. As you shuffle toward the main house, your stomach rumbles. Hunger is another companion you did not choose. The sun, somewhere behind the hills, has not yet started its shift. But you have. You always have. You always will. You do not sleep in a bed. Not the kind the ladies upstairs collapse onto after a long day of giving orders and complaining about the heat. Not the kind with a feather mattress, pillows plump as chickens, or sheets washed in lavender scented water. Your bed is a patch of floor, a thin blanket if you are lucky, and a heap of straw that was never meant to last. No one asks if you slept well, because no one cares if you slept at all. Every night, when you lay your aching bones down, you must share your space with splinters, with lice, with other bodies as tired as yours. You can hear their breath in the dark, sometimes a soft sob muffled in a pillow, sometimes the rasping snore of someone who has learned to sleep through everything except the morning bell. There are no soft good nights, no kisses on the forehead, no bedtime stories whispered just for you. The only thing that tucks you in is fatigue so deep you sometimes forget your own name. You curl up in your corner, pulling your knees to your chest, trying to make yourself smaller so you do not brush against the next person. Sometimes the straw shifts and you feel the hard earth beneath it, a cold, cruel reminder that there is nothing between you and the ground but the thinnest pretense of comfort. Sometimes the straw stabs at your skin, leaving scratches you will feel all day under your clothes. If it rains, the roof leaks, and you might wake up damp, shivering, with your blanket clinging to your back like another layer of sorrow. When you do dream, your dreams are not about comfort. They are about food, about running, about your mother's hands braiding your hair. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, you wake from a dream so real you want to cry, but you cannot. Someone is always watching, or someone is always listening, or you have simply forgotten how to cry quietly. No one comes to turn down your blankets. No one brings you water at night. If you are thirsty, you get up in the darkness and search for the bucket, if it has not already been spilled, or if the children have not used it for something else. The water is warm, tasting of tin, but it is all you get. Your mornings and nights are tied together by exhaustion, a rope around your spirit, pulling you out of sleep and into the day before you are ready. If you wake up late, you risk the switch. If you wake up too early, you risk being pressed into extra chores. There is no perfect time to rise, only a perfect time to obey. You do not get to change the sheets. The straw only gets replaced when it is crawling with things you can see. No one cares about your comfort. You might wake up to find a mouse running across your arm or a cockroach exploring your ear. You might wake up to someone else's cough or someone else's fever. If you get sick, you move to the farthest corner. There is no nurse, no mother, only the hope that you will not die before the master's chores are done. Every sound at night is a possible threat. Footsteps mean someone is coming. Maybe the overseer with a bad mood. Maybe a child crying for their mother. Maybe a thief. You learn to listen and not be heard, to hide your presence even when you cannot hide your body. Sometimes, when you close your eyes, you wonder what a real bed feels like. You heard stories once, maybe from someone who worked in the big house, about mattresses so soft you sink into them, about sheets that smell like sunshine and soap. You cannot picture it anymore. The idea of softness, of warmth, of safety is fading, slipping away like the warmth from your own skin in the coldest months. When you wake, the straw clings to your hair and clothes, following you like a silent witness. It says, "You slept here. You belong here." No matter how many times you shake it out, it always comes back, just like the work, just like the orders, just like the days themselves, endless and identical. There is no rest in your rest. There is no comfort in your corner. The only thing you can count on is that tomorrow and the day after and the day after that, you will lie down on this same patch of floor and rise from it again as if you never left. Water is not something you simply have. Water is something you chase, you haul, you ration, you beg for, sometimes out loud, sometimes just inside your head, because asking too loudly is a sure way to get a frown or a lash. You wake before dawn, but the thirst you carry wakes up long before you do. It is your silent shadow, always with you, always insistent. Fetching water is your daily pilgrimage, your version of prayer. The well sits behind the house, distant enough to make every trip a chore, but close enough that the white family does not see the effort. The bucket is heavy. Its wooden handle chews at your palm until your skin turns red and raw. You are not supposed to make a mess. Spill too much and you will be scolded, or worse, accused of being lazy or wasteful. Two words that can land you in trouble faster than you can blink. The water is cold, at least early in the morning, before the sun bakes everything flat and mean. In winter, the surface might crust over with a thin layer of ice. You do not get to wear gloves, so you dip your hands into the water, fingers stinging, nails turning blue, biting your lip to keep from crying out. There is no sympathy for a maid who shivers. You are expected to be tougher than the cold, harder than the work. Once you fill the bucket, you trudge back to the house. Your shoes, if you even have shoes, are old, thin, barely there. Your toes curl in the cold dirt, slipping in the mud when it rains, burning when the path dries out in August. By the time you reach the house, you are already tired, and the day has not even started. The water is not for you. It is for the family. Baths, laundry, tea, cleaning, endless cups and pitchers for their endless thirst. You draw bath water for the mistress, the kind that steams and smells of rose petals. You heat kettles for the master's morning shave. You pour glass after glass for the children who leave them half empty on the table, then ask for more because they do not know what it means to want. When it comes time to wash yourself, you get what is left: the used, the lukewarm, the leftover. If you are lucky, you sneak a quick rinse after everyone has gone to bed, the basin already cloudy, the soap just a sliver. If you are unlucky, you wipe down with a damp rag, a few drops for your face, your arms, your aching feet. You have learned not to expect the luxury of clean. Clean is for the family. Clean is something you create for them, not for yourself. Water for you is also a source of fear. The well is deep, its stone walls slick with moss. You have heard stories, children falling in, buckets lost forever in the dark. You grip the rope tight, bracing yourself against the possibility of slipping. You know that if anything happens to the water supply, if the well dries up or turns foul, the blame will land squarely on your shoulders. You are responsible for things you cannot control, and you are reminded of this fact every time someone sighs over a chipped pitcher or complains about the taste. On the hottest days, you dream of swimming, of plunging into a cool, clear river, letting the current carry you far, far away from here. But you do not swim. You fetch, you scrub, you pour, you measure out what little you are allowed. Sometimes, when the heat is so thick it clings to your skin, you splash your face with a handful of well water, knowing you should not, knowing that even this tiny pleasure might be seen as a theft. You watch the white family bathe, listen to them laugh behind closed doors, pouring gallons upon gallons of water over themselves, rinsing and soaping and rinsing again. You listen from the hallway, a silent ghost, thinking about how the soap slips through their fingers and into the drain, wasted, wasted, wasted. Later, you will scrub out their tubs and carry away their dirty water, your own hands wrinkled and raw. The kitchen water is no better. By midday, the basins are full of grease and crumbs, chicken bones floating like tiny rafts. You wash dishes in water that goes from cloudy to brown to black, and then you dump it outside, careful not to splash your skirt or shoes. If you are caught dumping it in the wrong place, there will be shouting, a lecture, maybe worse. If you spill a drop on the kitchen floor, you mop it up with your own rag, your own skirt if you have to. You have a favorite mug, a chipped blue cup you rescued from the trash. It is yours only because no one else wanted it. When you do get to drink, you do it quickly, furtively, glancing over your shoulder. If anyone asks, you say you were just rinsing it out. You learn to be grateful for every swallow, even when the water is stale and warm. Rain is both blessing and curse. When it pours, the barrels fill, and you hope the roof does not leak too much on your sleeping corner. When it is dry, you pray every trip to the well is not the last. Sometimes, on quiet nights, you catch yourself listening for the sound of rain, longing for it, as if rain might wash something clean that soap and scrubbing never could. In this life, water is never simple, never just there for the taking. It is a burden, a risk, a fleeting comfort. You fetch it, carry it, use it for others, and always wish for more. Laundry is your river, and you are always drowning. It is not a river you can step out of or float upon. It drags you under day after day with no end, no mercy, and no hope of reaching the other shore. Every day you wake, you know the dirty clothes will be waiting for you, multiplying like flies, never shrinking, never done. The laundry room is not really a room. Sometimes it is just a corner outside where the ground is always muddy and the wind always finds a way to chill your skin. Sometimes it is a shed, dark and smelling of mold, with a tub that leaks and a board that wobbles under your weight. You work there because no one else wants to, because someone has to, and that someone is always you. You carry the laundry in heavy baskets, so full the sides bulge and the handles bite into your fingers. Sometimes your back aches before you even begin, but the laundry does not care. Shirts, trousers, petticoats, nightgowns, stockings, all come together in a tangled, dirty mass. Each piece tells a story: grass stains from the master's boots, ink blots from the children's lessons, sweat rings and spilled gravy, and worse. Sometimes you are forced to clean things that turn your stomach, and you do it because you must. You sort it by color, by fabric, by whose anger you fear most if something goes wrong. The whites must be spotless. If a single shirt or handkerchief comes out dingy, there will be questions and blame. The colors must not bleed. If they do, it is your fault, even if the dye was cheap and the water too hot. You learn to anticipate disasters before they happen because you have paid for them before with lost meals, lost sleep, and sometimes lost skin. You drag buckets of water from the well, splashing your skirt, soaking your shoes, arms straining with every step. You pour the water into the tub, add lye soap that burns your hands, and start scrubbing. You lean into the work with all your weight, shoulders hunched, arms moving back and forth until the fabric is cleaner than your own skin. The soap stings your cuts. The water is cold and grows colder, your knuckles turning red, then white, then numb. You beat the clothes against the washboard, feeling each rib through the thin fabric, listening to the thud and slap echo across the yard. If you pause, even for a moment, the pile seems to grow. The mistress expects miracles, whites as bright as the clouds she never notices, linens so fresh they might be new. But the water is hard, the soap is harsh, and your hands are not made of magic. After scrubbing, you rinse each piece in more water, lifting heavy, dripping cloth that weighs twice what it did dry. Your muscles burn, but you do not stop. There is no one to help you, and there never will be. You wring out each item, twisting and squeezing until your wrists ache and your hands cramp. The water that runs out is brown, then gray, then almost clear, but never really clean. By the time you are done, the tub is filthy, and you are too. You carry the clean, well, cleaner, clothes to the line, stretching them out in the sun if the weather is good, or near the fire if it is not. The line sags under the weight. Your shoulders sag with it. You pin shirts, aprons, dresses, listening for the sound of the mistress's voice. If she calls, you must come running, whether your hands are wet or dry. The wind sometimes whips a sheet from the line, sending it into the mud. You curse silently, then go to wash it again. When the clothes are dry, you take them down, careful not to let them fall. You shake out the dust, fold them just so, and iron them if you are allowed. The iron is heavy, the handle hot, and the steam rises in clouds that sting your eyes and nose. If you burn a shirt, it is your fault. If you scorch a skirt, it is your punishment. Finally, you carry the fresh laundry upstairs, arms full, back bent, feet dragging. You place each piece exactly where it belongs, never in the wrong drawer, never in the wrong room. If you make a mistake, someone will find it, and you will pay. The white children drop clean clothes on the floor without a thought, and the cycle begins again. There is no end. By the time you finish one load, another has appeared. Stains reappear, as if by magic. Mud returns to the hems of dresses, collars yellow with sweat and time. No one thanks you. No one notices the pain in your arms, the roughness of your hands, the exhaustion in your bones. Sometimes, late at night, you stare at your own clothes, torn, patched, stained beyond repair, and wonder what it would feel like to wear something new, something clean, something that belonged only to you. But there is no time to wonder and no reason to dream. The river of dirty laundry flows on, and you will always be swimming against the current. You spend much of your life in the kitchen, but it is never your kingdom. It is a battlefield of burnt pans, sharp knives, and endless scolding, all of it belonging to someone else. The mistress reigns from her distant chair, issuing orders about pies and puddings she will never lift a finger to make. The white cook snaps and shouts as if the kitchen were a stage, and you, forever, the clumsy stagehand, tripping over her lines. The kitchen is never quiet. Before dawn, it is the clang of iron pots, the hiss of water poured over coals, the sharp chop of knives through onions, potatoes, and anything else they want cooked, peeled, or diced. It is always hot, even in winter, when the rest of the house is cold and you can see your breath in the hallway. In summer, the heat is suffocating, a heavy blanket you can never throw off, prickling your scalp, stinging your eyes, and gluing your thin dress to your body. You are not the cook, but you do the work, cleaning fish, plucking chickens, scrubbing potatoes, shucking corn. You know the right way to stir a gravy, the exact amount of salt to pinch into a stew, the order in which eggs must be beaten for the cake to rise. Sometimes you think the food would be better if they let you cook it your way, but they never do. You are the help, never the chef. Your opinion is unwanted. Your taste never consulted. Everything you do is under supervision. If the gravy is lumpy, it is your fault. If the roast is tough, it is because you did not fetch the right firewood, or you did not scrub the roasting pan well enough, or you distracted the cook with your slow hands and dull wits. If the cake falls, you are told it is because you looked at it too long, as if your eyes could curse the batter. You stand in the heat for hours, peeling, slicing, stirring, sweating. Your back hurts, your arms ache, but you keep going because stopping is not an option. There is always something to do: silverware to polish, apples to core, dough to knead, butter to churn. Your fingers grow numb and red from hot water and lemon juice, stung by onion and scalded by steam. You are always hungry. The smells in the kitchen drive you half mad. Spices and sugar, roasting meat, bubbling soups, all for someone else. You swallow hard, forcing your stomach to be silent. Sometimes the cook will toss you a crust of bread or the end of a carrot, as if you are a dog. You eat it quickly, hoping no one sees, knowing that if the mistress catches you, there will be words, or worse. When the food is ready, you carry it out. Heavy platters, bowls steaming, pitchers of fresh milk and jugs of cold cider, all balanced on your arms, as if you were born to serve. The dining room is bright and airy, filled with laughter and talk you are not supposed to hear. You slide around the table, pouring, serving, refilling, never speaking. You are invisible until you make a mistake. Then suddenly, you exist, just long enough to be scolded. The family eats first, then the guests, then maybe the cook. By the time you are allowed to eat, the best is gone. You get the scraps, the leftovers scraped from plates, the crusts, the bones, the gristle. You eat in the corner or in the shed, hunched over your bowl, grateful for anything at all. You have learned not to be picky. You chew slowly, savoring each bite, because you do not know when you will eat again. The cleaning comes next. You scrape plates, dump bones, collect dirty spoons, and haul everything back to the kitchen. The dishwater is filthy before you even start. Grease floats on the surface. Bits of food swirl at the bottom. You wash and rinse, your hands turning red and raw. There is never enough soap, and you are told not to waste it. You scrub until the plates shine, until the pots gleam, until your knuckles are sore and your nails are chipped. Sometimes, if you are lucky, you find a bit of meat clinging to a bone, a spoonful of pudding left in a bowl. You eat it quickly, standing at the sink, praying no one comes in and sees you. You have seen what happens to girls who are caught stealing food. They say you are greedy, ungrateful, sly. They forget that you are hungry because they make you hungry. When the work is done, it is never truly done. There is bread to set for the next day, milk to bring in from the shed, pans to scald, knives to sharpen. The fire must be banked, the ashes swept, the floor scrubbed. The kitchen must be ready for the morning, because the morning always comes, and the mistress will know if you leave something undone. You fall asleep with the smell of onions and grease in your hair, your hands stained with beets, your arms aching from the weight of pots and pans. You dream of food, fresh peaches, hot biscuits, honey, food you will never taste. The kitchen is the heart of the house, they say, but for you, It is just another room where you do not belong. Dust is everywhere. It is in the corners, under the beds, along the crown molding that the mistress brags about to visitors. It floats through the parlor, settles in the creases of expensive drapes, burrows into the fibers of carpets shipped all the way from New England. It gathers, quietly, invisibly, as if it knows that you will be the one to chase it away, again and again, without end. No one else in the house seems to notice the dust, unless you miss a spot. Then it is suddenly everywhere, on the tip of the mistress's finger as she inspects a shelf, in the sunlight streaming through the window, in the faint lines your rag leaves behind. The children do not see the dust. They stomp in from outside, dragging mud and grass, scattering crumbs as if the floor were a field. The master does not see the dust. He sees only you, kneeling, scrubbing, always one step behind. Your day is divided into territories of dust. You begin in the grand hallway, moving with a bucket, a brush, and a rag that is no longer white. You polish wood until you can see your face reflected in it, distorted by the curves and edges. You dust the banisters, each rung cold and sticky, always catching your sleeves. The wood is never satisfied. It always wants more oil, more rubbing, more of your effort. In the parlor, the dust becomes tricky. It hides in the embroidery of the furniture, in the pleats of the curtains, in the grooves of the picture frames. The family likes to show off these rooms, to parade their wealth before guests who, like them, never think about who keeps it all so spotless. You move quietly, hoping not to disturb the delicate ornaments. If you break one, you know exactly how much trouble will follow, no matter how many times you have dusted the same vase, the same clock, the same rows of china dogs. You must never let your hands slip. Upstairs is worse. There are more nooks, more crannies, more dust, and more chances to make mistakes. The bedrooms are temples to comfort, but you are forbidden to linger. You move swiftly, but carefully, smoothing sheets, straightening pillows, dusting the mantel, always aware of the footsteps echoing down the hall. If you are caught dawdling, they will say you are lazy. If you rush and leave a speck behind, they will say you are careless. There is a special cloth for the mirrors, a soft one that does not scratch. You polish the glass until your face swims in it, tired and unfamiliar. The mirrors do not flatter you. They show your hair tied back, your dress faded and stained, your hands cracked from soap and scrubbing. They show someone who is always moving, always cleaning, always there, but never truly seen. Dust in the kitchen is different. Here it mixes with flour and soot, sticks to greasy pans, and lines the shelves with a fine gray coat. The cook complains about the mess, but never about the work. You sweep, you wipe, you scrub, knowing it will all be undone by evening, when supper is over and another round of crumbs and ashes needs chasing. You breathe in the dust, feel it settle in your lungs, in your skin, under your fingernails. Sometimes, when you finally step outside for a moment, you feel the urge to wipe your hands on your apron, to shake the dust loose, but it follows you. It clings to your clothes, your hair, the soles of your shoes. You begin to think that the dust knows you, that it waits for you. You cannot escape it any more than you can escape the work. The mistress sometimes comes behind you, trailing her finger along the baseboards, checking for dust. If she finds even the thinnest line, she sighs, as if your failure is a personal insult. You apologize, and she tells you to be more careful. She does not ask how many times you have already wiped that same spot. She does not ask if your knees hurt from kneeling or if your back aches from bending. Her eyes do not see you, only the dust. There are moments when the sunlight catches a swirl of dust motes in the air, turning them to gold for an instant. For that moment, the dust is almost beautiful, almost magical. Then you remember that you will have to sweep it up, wipe it away, return the house to its unnatural state of perfection. The beauty is fleeting, the work eternal. No one thanks you for chasing the dust. No one remembers how much you have done, only what you have missed. The dust is your daily enemy, your constant companion, and your silent judge. It is the measure of your failure, never your success. And tomorrow, it will be waiting for you, right where you left it, ready to begin again. Cleaning is not just work, it is a punishment you never earned, a sentence you serve every waking day. Every smudge, every muddy footprint, every greasy handprint on the wall is another reminder that you exist to erase other people's mess. The dirt is never yours, but the blame always is. If the floor is dirty, it is your failure. If the window is smudged, it is your oversight. If a guest frowns at a dusty shelf, your name is called, sharp as a whip. You learn early that dirt is not simply dirt. It is a map of your labor and your supposed laziness, a ledger of invisible failures that everyone else sees, but only you must pay for. The family walks through the halls in their shoes, trailing in mud and horsehair and bits of hay, but it is you who must kneel, you who must scrub until your knuckles bleed and the boards gleam. You sweep, you mop, you polish, you scrape, and you do it all over again, as many times as it takes to please people who will never be pleased. You do not clean for your own comfort. The house is never truly clean for you. The parlor may shine, the stairway may be spotless, but your own corner, your sleeping mat, your few possessions are always touched by the same dirt you clean from everywhere else. Your hands are raw and red, nails broken, palms stained from years of lye soap and rough brushes. You sometimes wonder if you are scrubbing the dirt away or if you are simply grinding it into yourself. Kitchens are the worst. Grease collects on every surface, sneaking into cracks, coating pans and pots that you scrub and scrub, never quite clean. The cook complains if the stove is not shiny. The mistress wrinkles her nose at a spot on the sink. The children leave sticky handprints everywhere, and you follow after them with a rag, erasing evidence of lives lived carelessly, luxuriously. Their mess is proof of their freedom. Your cleaning is proof of your captivity. You mop the floors on your knees because standing is too easy and too quick, And someone decided long ago that a maid should feel the work in her bones. Sometimes you imagine you are wearing out the floor itself, that one day your scrubbing will wear a hole right through the boards and you will simply fall away, down, down, to some place where the dirt does not matter. But the boards are stubborn, and so are you. When the house is full of guests, your punishment grows. The men bring in dust on their boots. The women shed feathers and bits of lace. The children spill juice and cake. You are told to stay out of sight, but every accident is your responsibility. If the punch bowl tips, you mop up the sticky puddle. If a glass shatters, you sweep the shards, careful not to cut your bare feet, because there are never enough shoes for the help. You work behind the scenes, silent and swift, erasing all evidence that you were ever there. If you miss a spot, someone will find it. The mistress will call you by your first name, which sounds like an insult when she says it, and point with her delicate finger at the offending streak. She will sigh or tut or simply glare. Did you not see this? She will say, as if you have only one job, as if you are nothing but a pair of eyes and a rag. You will apologize, head bowed, heart pounding, knowing that this is not just a mistake, it is a failing, a mark against your already stained record. Sometimes, when the day is over and the house finally sleeps, you think about dirt differently. Dirt is honest. It tells the truth about where people have been, what they have done, what they value, and what they discard. You wonder if, someday, someone will see all this dirt for what it is, a story of work, of effort, of lives spent in service. But you know that as long as you are here, as long as there are floors to scrub and windows to polish, the only story that matters is the one told by clean surfaces. Punishment is not always a whip. Sometimes it is a sigh, a cold meal, a longer list of chores. Sometimes it is just the knowledge that no matter how hard you work, the dirt will always come back. You are never done, never finished, never free. Even your rest is a kind of labor, because you know that in a few short hours you will begin again, hands already aching, shoulders already sore, spirit already tired. Other people make the mess. You clean it up. That is the order of things. And if you falter, if you slow down, if you dare to wish for a world where you do not have to scrub away other people's dirt, you will be reminded, harshly, swiftly, without fail, that punishment is not just for mistakes. Punishment is your place. You are always present and never there. Your hands are busy, your feet move swiftly, but your mouth stays closed and your eyes are trained downward, because silence is your safest armor. You sweep under tables, dust the mantle, serve at dinners, and clear away the remains, all while pretending you have no ears. The house is filled with conversations that are not meant for you, and yet you hear everything. You become an expert in the art of vanishing while standing in plain sight. The White family and their guests discuss things freely, as if your black face renders you invisible, as if your mind is too simple or too busy to understand their words. They talk about money, about neighbors, about cotton prices and marriages and politics. They talk about you, Sometimes, as if you are not right there, as if your entire life can be reduced to a word: maid, girl, property. Sometimes the mistress holds her morning tea in the parlor, the other ladies in their silks and lace, fanning themselves and gossiping about who is expecting, who is ill, whose husband is running around. They complain about the heat, about their servants, about the price of sugar. You pour tea, refill cups, collect in empty saucers, and listen. You learn to stand perfectly still, to breathe quietly, to never react when they mention someone you know, or, worse, yourself. A careless smile, a sudden glance, and you risk anger, suspicion, or even punishment. At dinner, the men's voices fill the room like thunder. They argue about the price of cotton, about the president, about war. You know more about the world's affairs than you are allowed to say. Sometimes you wish you could ask questions, join the conversation, or just express the smallest opinion. Instead, you clear the plates, soak up spilled wine, and keep every word you hear tucked inside your head. You hear secrets, some innocent, some dangerous. You hear about marriages falling apart, about debts owed and paid, about runaway slaves and the men hired to catch them. You hear whispered confessions in the hallway at night, quarrels that turn into shouting matches behind closed doors, and sometimes the sound of weeping when the house is otherwise quiet. You know whose child is not the master's, who sneaks out after dark, who fears the next letter from the city. Sometimes children confide in you without meaning to. They talk to their dolls, to each other, to the air, revealing things they have overheard, things they do not understand. The older children ask questions, poking at you to see if you will answer. You have learned to keep your words simple, your tone flat, your thoughts hidden deep. One wrong word, one hint of knowledge, and you could find yourself accused of eavesdropping, or worse, of gossip. There are conversations that make your blood run cold. Discussions of buying, selling, punishing, breaking up families, yours, or someone you know. The master speaks in the detached tone of a man haggling over cattle, never looking at you, never acknowledging that the names on his list are mothers, sons, brothers, daughters. You stand and listen, your hands steady even as your heart shakes. Sometimes you hear rumors of escape, stories of uprisings far away, whispers about the North, about freedom. These conversations are always held in lowered voices, behind closed doors. The fear is thick in the air, and you know better than to show any sign you are listening. You repeat these words only in your head, late at night, holding on to them like a secret prayer. Being a silent witness is not safety. If something goes wrong, if a secret is revealed, if a plan is discovered, it is always possible that you will be blamed, whether you heard anything or not. You are always guilty of listening, even when you have no choice. When guests visit, the rules tighten. You are instructed to be invisible, to move without sound, to never meet anyone's eyes. Yet your presence is expected, to refill glasses, to fetch forgotten handkerchiefs, to answer with yes, ma'am, or no, sir, and nothing more. Your accent is mocked if it slips out. Your silence is judged as stupidity If you do not respond quickly enough, you cannot win. At night, when you finally return to your corner, you replay the day's conversations in your mind. Sometimes you share a word or two in a whisper with a friend, another maid, or a field hand, careful not to be overheard. Knowledge is dangerous, but it is also a way to survive, a warning, a chance to plan, even a way to hold on to hope. You know everyone's business, but you cannot act on any of it. You are a shadow on the wall, a pair of hands that cleans, a set of ears that must pretend not to work. You are always present, always silent, always the witness to lives that move on without you, as if you are not really there at all. The nursery is a world apart, a kingdom of small tyrants with sticky hands, loud voices, and endless needs. You are their silent guardian, their invisible nurse, their reluctant playmate, their ever watchful cleaner. The White family's children live in a land of toys and storybooks, of blankets freshly laundered and sun warmed, of soft pillows and lullabies. You live in the shadows of that land, always cleaning up behind them, always holding your breath, always making sure nothing goes wrong. You are the first to rise and the last to sleep. Before dawn, before anyone else even yawns, you are in the nursery, tidying up the scattered toys from the night before. Doll parts, blocks, marbles, little things that roll under beds and get stepped on in the dark. You sweep the floor, smooth the quilts, straighten the books. Every morning, it looks as though a storm has blown through, and you must put the world right before the mistress peers in. The children wake up slow and spoiled, whining for breakfast, arguing over who gets dressed first, who gets the favorite ribbon, who sits nearest the window. You must mediate every squabble, settle every argument, brush every tangled head of hair, wipe every runny nose. Their moods are your weather. If one wakes in tears, your day is rain. If they are giggling, your day is only clouds. There is never sunshine for you, only the shifting sky of other people's children. You feed them, spoon by spoon, coaxing bites into stubborn mouths. If oatmeal spills, you wipe it up. If milk tips over, you mop the floor and scrub the sticky residue from the rug, the table, the sleeves of tiny dresses. Every accident, every mess, every sudden sickness is your work to erase. When the mistress visits, she glances around for signs of disorder. If she finds a speck of dust or a wrinkle in the blanket, she blames you, not the children. Her scoldings are sharper than any child's tantrum. You dress the children for outings, tying laces, buttoning collars, securing bonnets and hats. Each layer must be just right, shoes polished, pinafores spotless, faces shining. The children squirm and fuss, wriggling free just as you finish. Sometimes they run, dragging mud back into the nursery, undoing an hour's work in a minute of play. You do not scold. That is not your place. When the children fall and scrape their knees, it is your arms they run to. You dab away blood with the corner of your apron, whisper soothing words you hope they will forget before their mother comes. The mistress would not approve of you comforting her children too much. Affection is rationed carefully, like the good jam. You are supposed to care, but not too much, never enough to blur the line between servant and family. Sometimes, at nap time, a child begs you to stay and hum a song, an old tune you learned long before you came to this house, from a mother whose face you barely remember. You sing softly, heart tight, voice low, hoping the melody will lull them to sleep. When it works, you slip away, leaving the nursery as quiet as a church, then rush to finish the other chores, laundry, dishes, mending, before they wake. You clean constantly, scrubbing little shoes, washing little shirts, picking lint from socks, searching for lost buttons. You bleach sheets in the sun, iron handkerchiefs, mend the torn seams from all their rough play. The children see only the magic, clothes that always appear clean, sheets that smell of fresh air, beds made before they even know they are unmade. The mistress sees only the flaws, the spot on the collar, the patch that does not quite match the fabric, the doll dress not repaired fast enough. The worst part is knowing you have your own child, somewhere else on the property, perhaps with another nurse, perhaps alone. You think about them all day. Did they eat? Did they fall? Did they cry for you? You are paid, not with money, of course, to care for other people's children while your own grows up without your arms, your songs, your steady hands to comfort and guide. Punishment hangs over you like a shadow. If a child falls, if they cry too loudly, if they grow ill, it is your fault. You are the shield, absorbing every blame, every disappointment, every danger. No one asks about your health, your hunger, your heartbreak. You could be sick, tired, grieving, and still you must smile, play, and mop up every tear and every spill. At the end of the day, after baths and bedtime, you carry the laundry away, sweep the crumbs from the rug, arrange the toys in silent, hopeful rows. The nursery is still, the children's breathing soft and even. You stand in the doorway for a moment, watching lives that will never know of your story. Then you close the door and return to your own world, where there are no toys, no fresh blankets, no gentle hands to tuck you in. You are nanny and cleaner, comfort and ghost, presence and absence. Their childhood is bright because your days are shadow. Clothes in this house are proof that everything belongs to someone else. Each morning you handle wardrobes bursting with color, softness, and choice, none of it for you. You launder, you mend, you fold, you press, your hands shaping, smoothing, repairing garments far finer than anything you will ever wear. You have become an expert in the subtle hierarchies of fabric, the mistress's silk gown, the master's linen shirt, the children's starched pinafores. Each has its place. Your own dress, by contrast, is always the same. A faded uniform, a patchwork of repairs, a daily reminder of where you stand. You begin with sorting, piles for each family member, care for each fabric type. The mistress's dresses must be handled gently, soaked in lukewarm water, patted dry between towels before you hang them in the sun. The master's shirts demand starch and a steady hand at the iron. The children's things, Smocks, socks, lace trimmed bibs must be free of every speck and stain, or you will hear about it. The work is never finished. Buttons go missing, hems unravel, ribbons fray. If you patch a tear with the wrong color thread, it is noticed. If you mend a seam with too large a stitch, you are scolded for clumsiness. The mistress might hand you a dress with a rip and say, "Do it properly this time." You nod and say, "Yes, ma'am," though you remember every prior repair, every rush to fix things after too little sleep, too little light, too little gratitude. Ironing is an ordeal all its own. The heavy iron must be heated on the stove, its handle wrapped with rags to save your hands. Steam rises, hot and stinging, as you press pleats and smooth out wrinkles. The hiss of the iron, the acrid scent of scorched fabric when you linger a moment too long. These are the sounds and smells of your workday. If you burn something, you pay for it, not in money, which you do not have, but in punishment, in hunger, in extra chores. You are expected to look tidy too, but are given nothing to help you. Your dress is always the oldest, the least valuable, passed down from mistress to maid, to the wash house, and finally to you. You mend it yourself, with the same needle you use for the family's things, patching over patch, hiding tears with creativity because you cannot afford new cloth. Your apron is always stained, your shoes always thin. You are told to be grateful you have anything at all. Sometimes you find an old petticoat in the rag pile, a hem too frayed for the mistress's taste, a tear in a sleeve that is not worth her time. You beg to keep it, promising to wash and repair it, to use it only on the coldest nights. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they throw it out anyway. Even your rags must be approved by someone else. The white children never notice how their clothes appear magically mended and clean. If they tear a dress or spill jam, they hand it off to you without a thought, confident it will reappear as good as new. The mistress, on the other hand, notices everything except your effort. She never sees how many times you prick your finger, how often you stay up late, darning socks by candlelight, how carefully you sort and store every ribbon, every glove, every handkerchief. On Sundays, when the family dresses in their finest, you stand aside, smoothing out their sleeves, buttoning collars, tying sashes. You must make them perfect. Their pride is built on your invisible labor. When church is over, you gather the muddy hems and grass-stained trousers, the bonnet stained by rain, and you begin the work all over again. There is no Sunday best for you. Once in a while, you catch your reflection in the polished glass of a wardrobe or a hallway mirror, your dress gray and shapeless beside the riot of silks and cottons. The difference stings more than the roughness of the fabric or the holes in your shoes. It is the knowledge that even if you worked for 1,000 years, you would never own a single fine thing. If you are seen looking too long at a pretty dress, the mistress frowns. You must remember your place. And you do. Your place is to make sure everyone else's clothes are perfect, even if your own are falling apart. Clothes are never yours. They are borrowed warmth, borrowed modesty, borrowed respectability that you can never truly claim. They are proof that you exist only to serve. You do not have the luxury of illness. Sickness is something for the family to fret over. The children's coughs, the master's rheumatism, the mistress's headaches, each met with warm blankets, remedies, a visit from the doctor. Your own pain is a secret you hide under your apron, a burden you bear alone. To admit weakness is to risk scolding, suspicion, even punishment. You have learned to keep quiet, to swallow groans, to pretend nothing is wrong until you simply cannot stand anymore. Most days, the pain is just part of you, stitched into your bones as tightly as your name. Your hands are cracked from lye and hot water, your nails ragged, your joints swollen from endless scrubbing. The ache in your back is a constant companion, growing sharper every time you bend to lift a child, haul a bucket, or scrub a floor. You know the difference between tiredness and the kind of pain that means something inside you is not right, but you ignore it. You must. If you cough, you try to do it quietly, behind your hand, when no one is listening. If your chest burns or your throat aches, you say nothing. The last thing you want is to be noticed, to be labeled as lazy or ungrateful, to have your worth measured by how much work you can do before you collapse. You have seen what happens to those who cannot keep up. Sometimes they are given less food, fewer breaks, harder chores. Sometimes they are sent away, sold, traded, replaced. Injury is just as common as sickness and just as lonely. A cut from a broken plate, a burn from the stove, a bruise from bumping into the sharp corner of a table when you are rushing to obey. You do not cry out. You cannot. Instead, you wrap your wound in a rag, press your lips together, and keep moving. Bloodstains are just another thing to scrub away later. There are no bandages waiting for you, no ointments kept aside for your pain. If you are lucky, an older maid will show you a trick: how to chew willow bark for the ache, how to bind a twisted ankle with a strip of old cloth, how to make a poultice from kitchen scraps. You learn to tend yourself in secret, to hide your limp, to ignore the swelling, to hope the fever passes with rest you cannot afford. Sometimes you whisper a prayer that the sickness will not be noticed. Sometimes you pray it will, just so you can rest for a day. You watch the White family fuss over their health, summoning the doctor for every sniffle, every complaint. Bottles of medicine line the shelves in their rooms, sweet syrups and bitter powders, all carefully measured, all meant to soothe and restore. You are expected to fetch these things, to measure and administer them, to remember the dosages and timings. But not for yourself. For yourself, there is nothing but the hope that tomorrow you will feel strong enough to get out of bed. There are days when the pain is too much, when your legs will not hold you, when your head swims and the world narrows to a tunnel of heat and nausea. On those days, you work slower, moving through the chores as if in a dream, praying no one will notice. If the mistress sees you lagging, she will scold. If the overseer sees you falter, he might threaten or worse. You know the story of the girl who fainted at the washtub. She was whipped for laziness, then made to finish the laundry anyway. You have seen sickness take others. Fevers come and go, but sometimes they linger, burning through the quarters until everyone is coughing, shivering, too weak to stand. There are no doctors for you, only strong tea, hope, and the mercy of your own body. Sometimes people do not recover. When that happens, their absence is filled quickly. There is always someone else to take up the work, someone else to smooth the sheets, to scrub the floor, to carry the heavy bucket. At night, you dream of rest, of a bed where pain does not follow you. But even sleep is uneasy. You wake to coughing, to someone else's moans, to the fear that sickness might claim you next. You cannot imagine a life where being ill means being cared for, where a fever is met with concern, where a burn earns more than a passing glance. No one asks how you are feeling. No one wants to know. Your body is just another tool, valued only when it works as it should, discarded or ignored when it does not. The only medicine you have is endurance. The only cure is to keep working, keep moving, keep swallowing the pain. Tomorrow, you will rise again, whether you are ready or not, because that is what you do. You clean, you serve, you suffer in silence, because there is no one to tell and no one who would care. Hunger lives with you. It settles into your stomach before dawn and does not leave until long after you try to sleep, curling itself tightly against your ribs, gnawing and insistent. It is not a sudden, sharp pain, but a slow, familiar ache, a quiet absence, the echo of what you will not have. You have learned to make space for hunger, to expect it, to push it aside so you can keep working, keep standing, keep moving, because hunger is always there. The White family speaks of food with ease. They discuss menus, argue about which pies to bake, fuss over the best cuts of meat and freshest vegetables. The mistress complains when the bread is too hard, when the peaches are bruised, when there is not enough cream for her coffee. The children turn up their noses at porridge, beg for more sugar, leave half-eaten biscuits on their plates. They do not know what it means to be hungry, not the way you do, not in the way that shapes your thoughts, your days, your very body. In the kitchen, you are surrounded by food, but it is not for you. You peel potatoes, slice onions, shuck corn, scrape carrots. You knead dough, stir soup, roast chickens, bake pies. The smells are everywhere: meat roasting, bread baking, sweet apples stewing on the stove. Each scent is a temptation, a reminder of what you will never have. Your mouth waters, but you keep your hands busy, your face neutral, because a hungry servant is a greedy servant, and that is not allowed. When meals are served, you wait in the background. You carry heavy platters to the table, pour drinks, fetch more bread. You stand in the hall, listening to laughter, to the clink of silverware, to the endless litany of complaints and praise about the food you prepared but will not taste. When the family is done, you clear the plates, some with only crumbs, others with slices of meat or whole biscuits left untouched. You scrape leftovers into a slop bucket for the pigs, wondering if they eat better than you. Your own meal comes last, and it is never enough. Cold scraps, the crusts from the bread, the skin of the chicken, the watery remains of soup after the meat and vegetables are gone. Sometimes you get a handful of beans, a piece of salt pork, a spoonful of lard to stretch over stale cornbread. Other times, there is nothing left at all, just a pot scraped clean and a stomach that rumbles until it aches. You eat quickly, in a corner on a back step, hunched over a chipped bowl or straight from your hand. There is no time to savor, no point in hoping for seconds. The food is never enough to fill you, never enough to silence hunger for long. You learn to swallow slowly, to imagine you are eating more, to trick your mind into believing your belly is not empty. Hunger does not just make you weak, it makes you afraid. You worry that if you slow down, if you stumble, if you seem sluggish, they will accuse you of being lazy or sick. You worry that your thin arms and hollow cheeks are proof of something wrong, a mark against your work. Sometimes the mistress comments on your appetite, on your body. You look thin. You must be eating too much, she says, not as a kindness, but as a warning. You are always hungry, but you are also always working. You cannot afford to lose your strength, yet you never have enough food to build it back up. Some days, your hands shake as you scrub, your knees buckle as you carry buckets, your vision blurs as you iron, sew, sweep, serve. Still, you keep going. You have to. You have learned tricks to quiet hunger. You drink water to fill your stomach. You chew slowly. You save bits of food in your pocket for later, for moments when the ache becomes too much. Sometimes you find a berry bush behind the house or a stray apple in the orchard, and you eat it quickly, glancing over your shoulder. A found nut, a crust of bread, a potato that fell from a basket. These are your feasts. Each bite stolen from hunger feels like a small victory. You watch the children waste food, the family toss leftovers, and you cannot help but feel anger, sharp and bitter, mixed with the ache. But you swallow that too, along with everything else. Anger, like hunger, is something you must keep hidden. At night, as you lie on your straw mattress, your stomach aches. Sometimes you dream of food, a plate piled high, a warm roll, a slice of cake just for you. You wake, mouth watering, heart heavy, the taste gone before you even open your eyes. You remind yourself to be grateful for what you get, to remember there are others with less. Gratitude is supposed to quiet hunger. It never does. Hunger is your constant companion. It shapes your body, your days, your dreams. It teaches you to expect little and accept less. You live with it because you must. There is no other way. You live with the knowledge that punishment is never far away. It is the shadow that trails your every step, the whip crack lurking behind every word, the ever present answer to questions you are not allowed to ask. It takes many forms, some as obvious as a welt on the skin, others as invisible and lingering as shame. You wake each morning knowing that even the smallest mistake might bring it down, and you go to sleep each night replaying every moment, wondering if you missed something, if tomorrow will be the day your luck runs out. Sometimes punishment is physical, a misplaced dish, a stain that will not wash out, a chore not done quickly enough. Any of these can lead to a sharp word, a slap, or worse. The switch is always nearby, a branch kept ready for use, its smoothness a testament to years of discipline. The overseer or mistress wields it with practiced hands. The pain is sharp, burning for minutes or hours, the marks fading only to be replaced by new ones as time grinds on. You have learned to keep your voice low, your eyes lowered, your hands steady. Even then, punishment can come without warning. If the mistress wakes in a bad mood, if the master's business goes poorly, if a guest finds a hair in their soup, you may find yourself at the center of their anger, the object onto which they pour their frustrations. Sometimes you are punished not for what you have done, but for what someone else has done, or simply for being present when something goes wrong. There are punishments for speaking when you should be silent, and for silence when you are supposed to answer. A word out of place, a slow response, a question you were not meant to hear, these are all risks. The safest path is to be invisible, to hope that if they do not notice you, they will forget to punish you. But invisibility is a fragile shield. You are always on display, always watched, always at risk of becoming the day's example. Some punishments are quieter, but no less cruel. You might be denied food, sent to bed hungry after a day spent surrounded by smells of roasting meat and baking bread. You might be made to work longer, to scrub the floor again and again until your arms ache and your knees bleed. You might be given the coldest bed, the heaviest load, the hardest task, all for a mistake so small you are sure you imagined it. The mistress has a special way of punishing with words. She talks about your nature, about how you will never improve, about how grateful you should be for the roof over your head. She compares you to others, never favorably, and makes you recite your own failures. Her words settle on your skin, itchy and impossible to scratch away. The master punishes with silence sometimes, a cold look, a door closed in your face, a reminder that you are nothing but property to him. There are other punishments too, ones whispered about in the quarters, shared in hushed tones after dark. The threat of being sold looms over you like a storm. You have seen it happen. A girl sent away for talking back, a boy for dropping a tray. You know that families are split apart for punishment as much as for profit, that the threat of sale is as sharp as any whip. It is the ultimate reminder that you do not belong to yourself, that everything you love can be taken away for the smallest slight. Sometimes punishment is humiliation. You are made to apologize in front of others, to stand in the yard while the children laugh or the neighbors stare. You are forced to repeat the story of your mistake, to explain again and again why you failed, as if words might undo the punishment itself. There are no secrets, no private griefs. Your pain is always public, your shame always on display. Even when you do everything right, you are never safe. There is always some new rule, some new expectation, some new way to fail. The rules are written in someone else's hand, rewritten whenever it suits them, impossible to follow and dangerous to forget. You learn to live on edge, to sleep lightly, to jump at every unexpected sound. The anticipation of punishment is often worse than the punishment itself, a poison that seeps into your bones and makes every day an ordeal. You watch others suffer and hope you will not be next, but you know your turn will come. Punishment is the language of the house, the way things are kept in order, the lesson you learn over and over until it is part of you, until you cannot imagine a world without it. You dream sometimes of a life where punishment is not at always nearby, where mistakes are met with understanding, where pain is not the answer to every question. But dreams are dangerous too. Another thing you can be punished for if anyone finds out. So you keep moving, keep working, keep quiet. You do what you are told and hope that for just today, punishment passes you by. There are no weekends here. There are no days off, no holidays to look forward to, no Sundays for rest or celebration. Every morning is Monday, every afternoon a Wednesday that drags on and on. Every evening is another Friday with nothing to show but blisters, bruises, and the bone deep fatigue that comes from work without end. You know the world outside your world marks time with holidays, Easter Sundays, Christmas mornings, days for giving thanks, for gathering with family, for feasting and singing and remembering what it means to rest. Because the family talks about these things, counting down the days, planning menus, sending invitations, choosing ribbons and flowers. For you, these days are just markers for more work, more guests, more food, more mess. If there is a special day in the calendar, it is special only in the size of the tasks you must complete. The family celebrates Sundays as a day of rest. They dress in their best clothes, stroll to church with clean faces and polished shoes, speak softly of God and mercy. You wake earlier than ever, making sure the best dresses are clean and pressed, that shoes are shined, that every hair ribbon and handkerchief is ready and waiting. Breakfast must be served early and cleared away quickly. After church, there is a meal more elaborate than usual, more plates, more forks, more crumbs to chase and spills to mop. The only rest you get on Sunday is when the house is quiet, and that is only so the family can nap. When there are holidays, you work harder still. On Christmas, you rise before dawn, lighting fires in every room, hauling water, preparing special cakes and roasts and puddings you will never taste. You polish the silver until your arms ache. You scrub the good china. You dust and sweep every corner twice, 3 times, until everything is as perfect as the mistress's pride. The family laughs and sings. The children unwrap presents, their voices echoing through the halls. If you are lucky, you will get an orange, maybe a sweet roll left from the table after the feast is cleared. If you are unlucky, you will be so tired you will not remember the day at all. On the 4th of July, you hear the distant boom of fireworks while you chase children through the garden, cleaning up after their sticky hands and muddy feet. You serve cold drinks on the porch, refill plates, keep the lemonade flowing. At night, when the family gathers to watch the sky, you stand just out of sight, listening to their cheers, the crackle of celebration, the sound of freedom echoing through a world where you have none. Thanksgiving is the worst of all. The work starts days ahead, peeling, chopping, roasting, baking. The kitchen is a furnace, your hands stained with pumpkin and grease. When the family gathers at the table, heads bowed in gratitude, you hover in the doorway, ready to fetch whatever is needed. Your own thanks come later, if there are leftovers, if you are allowed a quiet moment to sit and eat in peace. Most years, there is only exhaustion, the ache of muscles stretched past their limit. You hear the family talk of summer picnics, of dances, of trips into town. Each event means more laundry, more packing, more cleaning, more things to put right when they come home dirty, sunburned, and smiling. Even their leisure becomes your labor. Even their celebrations are just more reminders that you are here to serve, not to join. You are told to be grateful for holidays, for the extra food you might receive, for the small coin pressed into your palm on Christmas morning. But gratitude tastes hollow when it comes with blisters and swollen feet, when it is measured out in scraps and leftovers, when you know that tomorrow it will be back to the same endless grind. Sometimes the other maids or field hands whisper together, remembering holidays from before, from other places, from lives almost forgotten. They talk of songs, of laughter, of family gatherings, of the smell of good food and the comfort of a mother's arms. For a moment, you allow yourself to remember too, to imagine a world where holidays mean rest and joy, where you are not just a pair of hands in someone else's celebration. Then the moment passes, and you are called back to the kitchen, the laundry, the yard, the never ending list of things to be done. There are no weekends here, no holidays, no time to call your own. The calendar is just another tool for measuring how much more work you have left. If rest ever comes, it is not because the world has paused for you, but because you have collapsed, finally, under the weight of days that never end. You might imagine that when the sun finally slips below the trees, when the cicadas hum and the heat ebbs a little, when the white family retreats to their parlors and bedrooms, that your day is ending too. But that is just another fantasy you do not have the energy to chase. Evening for you is not a time of peace or reflection, not a signal to put your feet up or close your eyes. It is only another kind of work, a quieter but no less demanding shift in the endless cycle of someone else's comfort. As dusk falls, you sweep through the rooms again, gathering the day's debris, the crumbs from the children's snack, the dog's muddy prints, the feather from a lady's bonnet that floated down and escaped notice until now. You check that the fire in the kitchen has been banked, that the lamps are filled and trimmed, that the windows are latched against the night. You carry up hot water for baths, refill the pitchers, shake out the dust from rugs one last time. It never ends, not really. You carry out the slop bucket, careful not to spill, careful not to be seen. The yard is quiet and dim, the moon rising as you hurry past the other quarters, the smell of refuse clinging to your hands. You return inside, wash your hands quickly if there is water left, then hurry back to the main house for more. Sometimes the mistress or the master calls for one last thing before bed, a cup of tea A book, a shawl, a candle snuffed. You never refuse, not unless you are ready to be punished. You have learned that nothing is ever truly finished until they say it is. The family settles in for the night, each to their own room and their own dreams. You listen for the sound of their footsteps above your head, the laughter of the children echoing down the hallway, the last creak of the master's boots as he paces before sleep. If anyone needs you, they ring a bell, a sharp, insistent sound that snaps your nerves to attention no matter how tired you are. Sometimes you are called for a forgotten chore, sometimes for nothing more than to stand in the doorway and wait while they decide if they need you after all. When the house finally grows quiet, your real work begins. You finish what was left undone, laundry to be ironed, stains to be soaked, a pair of shoes to polish for tomorrow, a tear in a dress to mend by candlelight. Your fingers fumble, swollen and stiff. Your eyes strain in the low light. You count the stitches, the strokes of the iron, the minutes ticking by as midnight draws close. You think about sleep, but there is always one more thing. Even when you are not working, you are not at rest. You listen for sounds in the night, a crying child, a cough, a door creaking open. You are responsible if anything goes wrong. If the fire dies, if the water bucket runs dry, if a window is left open and the cat escapes, it will be your fault. You cannot let yourself forget, cannot truly let yourself sleep. When at last you are allowed to go to your own corner, never a room of your own, never a bed with sheets, but just a patch of straw or a thin mat, you sit for a moment, trying to rub some life back into your hands. The aches and pains of the day settle in, the pull of tired muscles, the sting of blisters, the bruises you collected without even noticing. You might whisper a few words to another maid, share a sigh, a complaint, a half joke about the day's indignities. You might close your eyes for a minute, pretending you are somewhere else. There is no evening meal waiting for you. If you are lucky, you eat a crust of bread or a bit of leftover stew, cold and congealed. If you are unlucky, you go to bed with nothing. Hunger is a familiar blanket, one that never quite warms you. Sometimes you try to remember the feel of real rest, a day when you could sit and do nothing, a night when you slept without fear of being woken for work. The memory is faded, distant, like a song half forgotten. You wonder if you will ever feel it again. You are not allowed to have light, not for reading or for comfort. A candle costs too much. If you want a moment for yourself, you must steal it in darkness. You might hum a quiet tune, whisper a prayer, stroke the edge of a worn letter, or a keepsake if you are brave enough to have one. But you do not linger. There is always tomorrow to prepare for. Eventually, exhaustion pulls you down. You curl up on your mat, feeling the day's dirt in your hair, the sweat on your skin, the dull ache of a body used up. Sleep comes in fits and starts, light, uneasy, the kind that never truly refreshes. You dream of work, of being called, of never being fast enough. You know that in just a few hours, before the world is light again, it will start over. The work is patient. It waits for you through the night, ready to greet you before the sun. Evening is not an ending, it is just a pause, a brief, uncomfortable silence in the song of labor, a shadow that covers you until morning brings the bell and the cycle begins again. You do not own your time, not a minute, not a heartbeat. Every second belongs to the house, the family, the relentless machinery of their comfort and order. But even in a life built on stolen labor, there are moments, small, slippery, dangerous moments, that you manage to steal back for yourself. These are not real breaks, not rest, not leisure, but stolen fragments you tuck away like crumbs, never enough to satisfy, always at risk of being caught. It might be just a moment at the well, where the air is cool and still, and you can look up at the sky, count the birds, listen to the wind in the trees. No one calls your name, not for a breath or two, and you let your shoulders drop, your hands relax, your face soften. You might dip your fingers in the cold water, splash your face, pretend you are somewhere else. You do not linger. Someone could round the corner at any minute, and then your stillness becomes laziness. Your sigh becomes a reason for scolding. But for a heartbeat, you remember what it feels like to exist for yourself. Sometimes it is a stolen word with another maid in the hallway, just long enough to exchange a joke, to roll your eyes, to share a memory of a better day or a worse one. The laughter is quiet, short, as if you are afraid it will cost you something. And it does. You glance around, always checking, always listening for the sound of footsteps, the bark of the mistress's voice. You cannot afford to be caught idling, but sometimes you must risk it. It is the only way to remember you are more than just a pair of hands. In the early morning, if you rise before the rest, you might step outside and breathe in the damp air, the scent of dew on the grass, the brief silence before the world wakes and the chores begin. You close your eyes and let the coolness settle over your skin. You might think of your mother, your own child, a home far away or lost to memory. For that short time, no one is asking, demanding, commanding. You are simply yourself, tired, yes, but alive. You learn to be creative with your hiding places. A closet, a corner behind the woodpile, the space under the stairs. These become havens, even for a minute. Sometimes you have nothing to do but breathe. Sometimes you sneak a piece of bread or a sweet potato. Sometimes you just sit and let your mind wander away from the endless list of things that must be done. Each stolen moment is a kind of rebellion, a tiny act of survival. You guard your secrets closely. Maybe you keep a scrap of ribbon tucked in your pocket, a pebble from a favorite path, a letter from someone you love. You cannot risk being found out. Possessions are suspicious, reminders of another life, a reason to accuse you of theft or plotting. But you keep them anyway. They remind you there is more to you than the work you do and the orders you obey. If you can, you listen for music, sometimes from the quarters, sometimes drifting on the evening air from another house, sometimes just the rhythm of your own humming. Music lifts you, if only for a moment, out of the dirt and heat and drudgery. You might move your feet in a quiet dance as you sweep the floor, sing under your breath as you scrub the pots. Songs from home, songs from childhood, songs that no one in the big house understands. You hold them close, your own private language. Rarely, you might catch a glimpse of the stars. You look up, craning your neck out the small window, counting the distant lights. No one can take the stars from you, not yet. You imagine a world beyond the fields, a world where you are not watched, not weighed, not worn out by endless days. The fantasy is brief. You cannot afford to get lost in it, but you savor it all the same. Some moments are taken in sleep, if you can call it that. In the restless half dreams before dawn, you let yourself drift to other places, other lives. Sometimes you dream of your own child, of laughter and freedom, of walking through the woods with no one waiting to call you back. These dreams vanish with the first morning bell, but they sustain you through the worst days. You must always be careful. A moment too long at the well, a conversation that runs past its welcome, a pause to watch the sun set. All can be punished. You know the risks, but you also know you need these moments. Without them, you would forget who you are. You would lose yourself entirely in the ceaseless, grinding rhythm of the days. The world gives you nothing for free, least of all time. But you take what you can, however brief, however secret, and hold it close. It is enough, just barely, to keep going, to remind yourself that even in this life, even in this place, there are things that are yours alone. When there is nothing left, when the day has scraped every bit of strength from your bones, when even the stolen moments feel thin and dangerous, when the world seems made entirely of dust, sweat, and orders, there is one place left to go. You go there quietly, in your mind first, and then, if the night is merciful and the house is still, you go in the body too. It is not a room or a church or a place built of wood and brick. It is the space that opens up when voices gather soft and low, when the candlelight is faint and flickering, when the words are old and the songs older still. Religion is a strange kind of gift, one you did not ask for, one used against you as often as it is given. The family believes their God is on their side. They make you dress up for church, sit at the back if they let you in at all, listen to sermons about obedience, about accepting your place, about heavenly rewards for those who suffer quietly. You have heard those sermons your whole life, and you know how to nod and keep your eyes lowered to say amen in the right places. You know what the family wants from their God, but you keep your own God hidden. Your religion is older, deeper, woven together from scraps. Words your mother whispered over you at birth, songs sung in the fields, prayers carried from far off lands. At night, when the work is finally done, and you have a minute not stolen, but earned, you gather with the others. Sometimes there are just a few of you, crouched in a corner, hands joined. Sometimes there are more, the room filling with quiet voices, the air trembling with hope and longing. You sing softly, always listening for the sound of footsteps. You cannot afford to be caught. Gatherings are dangerous. Faith outside the Master's church is forbidden. But you risk it anyway, because you need it to survive. The songs are different from the ones sung in the big house. Your songs are slow, heavy with longing, full of memory and yearning. You sing about rivers, about freedom, about a home you can barely remember. You sing to remind yourself and each other that suffering is not the only story. Some songs are prayers for strength, for patience, for the safety of those who are gone. Some songs are codes, directions, warnings, messages that slip past the ears of those who do not listen closely. The songs are yours, and for a moment, singing them makes you yours too. You pray, sometimes silently, sometimes aloud. You pray for small things, good weather, a kind word, a day without punishment. You pray for bigger things, health for your child, safety for a friend, a chance to see your family whole again. And you pray always for freedom. You do not say it out loud when others might hear, but it lives inside every prayer, a seed of hope that refuses to die. Religion is not just comfort, it is defiance. It is the one thing you have that can not be taken, can not be bought or sold or scrubbed away. The white family uses it to control you, but you use it to remind yourself that you are not a thing, not a tool, not just a name on someone else's ledger. You are a soul, you are a child of God, or of something greater than this house, this life, these endless days. Sometimes the preacher comes, a free man or a woman who knows how to speak in code. The sermons are not about obedience, but about endurance, about dignity, about the long arc of history that bends, eventually, toward justice. You listen with your head bowed, but inside you are standing tall. The preacher's words feed you in a way food never can. You know people who have given up hope, whose faith has flickered and died. You understand. It is easy to lose hope here, easy to believe the days will never change. Sometimes you feel your own hope dimming, feel your prayers going unanswered, feel the weight of suffering pressing down too hard. But you hold on, even if just to spite the world. If hope is all you have, you will not give it up. There are days when hope is as small as a single breath, a quiet word passed in secret, a memory of a mother's hand on your head. There are days when hope is a flame, a shout, a song, a refusal to bow your head. You watch the stars and imagine a world where you are free, where your labor is your own, where your family is whole, where your name is spoken with love. You cannot say when or if that world will come, but you dream it anyway. Religion and hope do not make the work easier. They do not fill your stomach or heal your wounds, but they give you something the family will never understand, a sense that you belong to yourself, that you are more than what they see, that your story does not end in this house, in these fields, in this endless round of days. And so, when the work is done and the night is deep, you whisper a prayer, you sing a song, you look up at the stars and hold on to hope, because sometimes that is all there is, and sometimes that is enough. Freedom. It is a word you almost never speak out loud, a word that feels both holy and forbidden. Sometimes you mouth it to yourself in the darkness, letting your lips shape the sound, afraid someone might hear you even then. Freedom is not a fact here. It is a rumor, a ghost, a luxury so dangerous you sometimes wonder if it is safer not to believe in it at all. Still, you cannot help yourself. The whispers find you, no matter how hard you try to hide from them. They ride the air with the smoke from the cook fire, slip under doors, and through cracks in the floorboards. Someone always knows someone who has heard about a man who ran, about a woman who made it north, about a family that vanished in the night, never to be seen again. Each story is told in code, in half sentences and careful glances, with names left out and places blurred. You listen with your head down, pretending not to care, heart pounding at the risk in every syllable. Freedom is dangerous. Wanting it is dangerous. Asking about it is dangerous. Being caught with a map, a plan, a hope is the most dangerous of all. The family says it is foolishness, a fantasy for the lazy or the wicked. They use sermons, stories, and songs to warn you there are swamps and dogs and men with guns waiting in the woods. There are icy rivers, hunger, strangers who would do worse than the master ever has. They remind you again and again that you are safer here, that the world outside is harder, meaner, colder. But sometimes, when you are scrubbing the floors or looking up at the stars, you think about what it would be like, just for a moment, to decide where your body goes, what your hands do, what your time is worth. You imagine walking away, quietly at first, then running. You imagine what you would take with you, who you would bring. You dream of a place where no one knows your name or calls it in anger, a place where you sleep as long as you want, where you wake to your own hunger and no one else's bell. You hear stories in the quarters, always at night. Sometimes they are true, sometimes you know they are not, but no one dares to ask for proof. The story is what matters. A man from another plantation made it to the city, hid in a wagon under sacks of flour, changed his name and found work as a free man. A girl crossed the river, barefoot and shivering, fed by strangers, given a place to rest before she went farther north. Sometimes someone hears about the Underground Railroad, about men and women, black and white, who risk everything to guide others to freedom. You learn the names of towns far away, names you repeat like prayers: Philadelphia, Boston, Canada. You memorize the direction of the North Star. You hear that moss grows on the north side of the trees, that certain songs carry messages in their verses. You listen for the sound of hope in the air, sharp and bright as a bell, and tuck it away for later. Of course, you also hear the stories of failure, the ones who are caught, dragged back, punished so thoroughly that everyone remembers for months, the ones who vanish, whose fate is never spoken of again. Fear is a language you know too well. It is whispered in the hush after a new arrival, in the silence when someone goes missing, in the way the mistress narrows her eyes and says, "Remember what happened to the last one who tried." Freedom is a luxury, a kind of forbidden fruit you are told will poison you. The master says you are not ready, that you would starve, that you need the protection of the house and the rules and the endless days. The mistress says you do not have the sense for freedom, that you would end up lost or worse. The preacher, At least the one they approve of says God wants you right where you are, working, waiting, patient. But hope does not die easily. You carry it in secret. Let it grow in the hidden corners of your heart. Let it out sometimes in a song or a look or a whisper late at night. It is dangerous to hope, but it is more dangerous to let hope go altogether. You learn to live with both the fear and the longing, to balance them like a secret on your tongue. You see the way the world could be different. You hear it in the stories. You feel it in the way your hands tremble when you think about running, in the way your heart leaps at every stranger who passes by. Sometimes you wonder if freedom is just another trick, another kind of punishment, but you cannot help wanting it anyway. To want is to be alive. To dream is to remember that you are not a thing, not a machine, not a number. You are a person. You are more than what they tell you. And so you hold on to the whispers, dangerous though they are. You tuck the stories away, keep your head down, but let your heart look up. Maybe one day, you tell yourself, the whispers will turn into shouts, and freedom will no longer be a rumor, but a life you can finally claim. You do not remember when your childhood ended, only that it slipped away quietly, unnoticed, as if it had never really belonged to you. Maybe it was the first morning you were shaken awake before sunrise and handed a task too big for your small hands. Maybe it was the day you stood in the corner and watched your mother working, her face set and silent, and realized the days of games and laughter were behind you, replaced with work and worry. Or maybe you never really had a childhood at all, just a brief, flickering moment between one demand and the next. You see the white children play in the yard, running barefoot in the summer grass, shouting with laughter, inventing new games, always knowing someone will call them home for supper, will wipe their tears when they fall. They have toys and books, holidays and naps, soft hands and clean clothes. They squabble and cry and make mistakes that are forgiven, forgotten. You envy them, not just the freedom, but the assumption that their happiness is important, that their comfort is a priority, that someone will always make the world soft for them. Your childhood was never like that. You learned early that the world would not be soft for you, that tears did not bring comfort, that mistakes brought consequences, that play was a rare, secret thing, a moment you stole when no one was looking. You grew up in the margins, in the shadow of someone else's house, always reminded that you belonged to someone else, that even your youth was not really your own. The first chores start small, gathering eggs, fetching water, keeping an eye on a younger child. But soon, the chores become real work, scrubbing floors, hauling wood, serving at the table. The grown ups stop calling you child and start calling you girl, boy, maid. Their voices are sharper, their expectations heavier. You stand on aching feet, your back bent, your hands blistered, wondering when you became old enough for this. The answer is always the same: old enough to be useful, old enough to work, old enough to do what is asked without complaint. You never have the luxury of innocence. You learn to read faces and moods, to sense trouble before it comes, to quiet your voice and hide your feelings. You become careful, cautious, wary. You watch other children be sold away or sent off to other houses, and you understand that even your family is not a guarantee. Love is real, but it is not a protection. You hold on tighter, but always with the knowledge that everything can be taken from you. Sometimes, late at night, you remember the scraps of play you managed to keep for yourself. A game of tag in the yard, a doll made from a scrap of cloth, a story whispered by candlelight when you should have been asleep. You remember laughing once so hard you cried before you learned that laughter could attract the wrong kind of attention. You remember wishing for a birthday cake, for a present, for a day where you could do nothing at all. The wishes faded, replaced by the dull ache of hunger, the sting of tired muscles, the endless need to be careful, to be useful, to be invisible. There is no coming of age here, no ceremony to mark the passage from child to adult. One day you are small and overlooked, the next you are handed a broom and told to get to work. Childhood ends when usefulness begins, and for you, that came too soon and lasted too briefly. You watch the other maids, the older women, the mothers and grandmothers, and wonder if they remember their own childhoods. Sometimes, if you are lucky, someone will tell a story from the old days, of games and songs from a different place, a different time. Their voices grow softer, sadder, as if they too are searching for something lost. For a moment, you feel like a child again, safe in the sound of their voices. Then the moment passes, and the work calls you back. The youth you lost is not just a matter of years. It is a matter of spirit, of hope, of the freedom to imagine yourself as something more than what you are. The family's children dream of the future, what they will be, where they will go, who they will become. You learn not to dream, or if you do, to keep your dreams small and secret. Dreams are dangerous, like hope, like freedom. If you have your own child, the pain is doubled. You see them growing up in the same world, learning the same lessons, losing their childhood piece by piece, the way you did. You want to shield them, to save something soft and kind for them, but the world will not allow it. You hold them close for as long as you can, singing songs at night, telling stories of better days, even if you do not quite believe them yourself. Stolen youth is not just the absence of play, but the absence of safety, of gentleness, of time to grow at your own pace. It is the certainty that the world is not yours, that your days are counted, measured, weighed, and spent for the comfort of others. You carry that loss with you always, hidden under the chores and the silence, a sorrow that never quite leaves. And so you work, and you watch, and you try to remember the child you once were, even as you teach yourself to forget. The hardest thing to accept is not just the pain, or the hunger, or even the fear. It is the sameness. The days slide into each other, identical and relentless, like water wearing down stone. Morning comes, and it could be any morning. Night falls, and it could be any night. Each sunrise is another promise that nothing will change. Each sunset is proof that you have survived, but only so you can begin again. Every day you rise before the light, your body moving before your mind catches up. You do the same chores in the same order with the same sore muscles. Fetch water, light fires, sweep floors, cook, clean, serve, obey. There is never enough food, never enough rest, never enough of anything except work. Your hands remember each motion, scrubbing, folding, lifting, bowing. Your feet know the way down every hallway, out to the well, back to the quarters. You could walk the path blind. The family is as constant as the days. The master's voice at breakfast, sharp and impatient. The mistress's footsteps, always looking for something out of place. The children's laughter, sometimes cruel, sometimes oblivious, always free in a way you have never been. The guests who visit and leave, never remembering your name, only noticing when you are not quick enough, quiet enough, invisible enough. You are part of the scenery, as permanent and as unnoticed as the furniture you polish. You measure time not in hours, but in tasks. The load of laundry finished before breakfast, the midday rush in the kitchen, the afternoon's dusting, the endless parade of rooms that must be made perfect again and again, the scraping of dishes after supper, the sigh of relief when the last lamp is snuffed and the house finally settles into uneasy quiet. And yet, rest never feels like relief, just a short breath before the next beginning. There are no seasons, only chores that change with the weather. Summer means more sweat, heavier air, fruit to be preserved, flies to chase from every corner. Winter means cracked skin, chilblains, fires to tend all night, laundry that never dries. Spring is mud tracked through the halls, new clothes to sew, babies to mind. Autumn brings canning and storing, the first cold creeping under the doors. Every change in the year is just another way to measure the same cycle. You try to mark the passing of time. A birthday remembered in secret, a child's height notched on the wall, a song sung softly in the dark. But even these small rituals are swallowed by the repetition. The years blur, and you forget how old you are, how long you have been here, how many times you have scrubbed the same floor, patched the same dress, endured the same punishments. Hope flickers and fades. Some days you let yourself believe in freedom, in change, in something more than this endless round. Most days you cannot afford hope. It is too heavy to carry alongside the buckets and the burdens. You see escape in dreams, but the waking world reminds you that there is no door you are allowed to open, no path you are allowed to walk for yourself. You watch the family live their lives as if each day is a gift. They make plans, take trips, talk about the future. For you, the future is just another string of days, all alike, each one waiting to take what little you have left. You have seen people try to leave. Some are caught and punished. Some disappear forever, their names never spoken aloud again. The rest of you learn to keep your heads down, to endure, to wait for something that may never come. You think sometimes about who you would be if you could choose. Would you be kinder? Would you laugh more? Would you rest and sing and walk out into the world as if you belonged in it? The questions are dangerous, but you cannot help asking. They are the only escape you have. Every night you return to your straw mat, exhausted and aching. You tell yourself, just one more day, just until something changes, just until someone remembers you are here. But nothing changes, not really. The world spins on. The house stays standing. The chores wait for you in the dark, ready for your hands, your feet, your silence. And so you live and work and endure, caught in a circle that never breaks, in days that never end, in a life that is not really yours. This is the truest punishment of all, not the lash, not the hunger, not the pain, but the knowledge that there is no escape. The sun will rise tomorrow, and you will do it all again and again and again.